In the ancient valley of Siddim, two cities rose from the earth like jewels: Sodom, Gomorrah, cities of wealth, cities of power, green valleys, flowing rivers, the kind of place men dreamed of. But beneath the surface, something rotted. The streets of Sodom weren't just corrupt, they were lawless. The weak were devoured, the innocent were prey, strangers weren't welcomed, they were hunted. It's a story of cities swallowed by fire, of judgment falling from heaven like rain, of a woman who turned to salt for one glance backward. This is not a fable, this is a warning written in ash. This wasn't just immorality, this was systematic cruelty, a culture where mercy was mocked, where evil wasn't whispered in dark corners, it paraded in broad daylight. And God saw it all. Welcome to the AI Testament, where ancient scripture comes alive. The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah reached heaven like the stench of decay. Something had to be done. But God is not reckless. He doesn't act in haste. So he sent his angels down to see for themselves. But before the angels descended, there was a conversation, a negotiation between man and the Almighty. Abraham stood before God on a dusty hillside, and he did something bold, something desperate. He bargained. "What if there are 50 righteous people in the city?" Abraham asked. "Will you spare it for 50? And God said yes. 45, yes. 40, 30, 20, yes, yes, yes. Abraham's voice grew quieter, his heart heavier. He knew what he was really asking. What if there are only 10? And God, patient and merciful, answered once more, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." 10 righteous souls, that's all it would take. But deep down, Abraham already knew there weren't 10, there weren't even 5. There was only one man in Sodom who still feared God. His name was Lot. Evening fell over Sodom like a shadow. The gates of the city stood open, and through them 2 strangers walked. They looked like men, travelers, vulnerable. Lot sat at the city gate. He saw them, and something inside him, some instinct, some memory of righteousness screamed a warning. He ran to them, bowed low, begged them not to spend the night in the open square. "Come to my house," he pleaded, "please." The angels hesitated, but Lot insisted. He knew what would happen if they stayed in the streets. So they went with him. Inside, Lot prepared a meal: bread, safety, a moment of peace before the storm. But the city had already seen them. It started with whispers, then footsteps, then shouting. The 2 men Lot was hosting were angels sent by God. The men of Sodom, young and old from every corner of the city, surrounded Lot's house. A mob, hundreds of them, pounding on the door, demanding the strangers be brought out, not to greet them, to violate them, to destroy them. This was Sodom. This was the darkness that had consumed the city whole. Lot stepped outside, trembling, trying to reason with the unreasonable. He even offered his own daughters to the crowd, a horrifying, desperate act that reveals just how twisted everything had become. But the mob didn't care. They wanted blood. They wanted cruelty. "Get out of our way," they snarled. "You're just an outsider. Who are you to judge us?" They rushed toward Lot, hands reaching, voices screaming. And then the angels acted. They pulled Lot inside, struck the mob with blindness. Men clawed at walls, searching for a door they could no longer see. Inside the house, the angels turned to Lot, and their voices were no longer gentle. "Do you have anyone else here? Sons, daughters, anyone?" Lot nodded, terrified. "Get them out now, because we're about to destroy this place." Lot ran through the streets to his sons-in-law, gasping, frantic. "Get up, we have to leave. God is going to destroy this city." But they laughed at him, thought he was joking.
mocking him. So Lot returned to his house, alone, broken. The angels grabbed him by the hand, grabbed his wife, his 2 daughters. "Run," they said. "Don't look back. Don't stop. Run to the mountains and don't look back." Dawn was breaking. The sky turned pale, and behind them, something stirred in the heavens. Then the Lord rained down sulfur and fire from heaven. It didn't start as a storm. It started as heat. The air itself began to burn. The ground trembled. The sky split open. And then it fell. Fire, brimstone, destruction poured from the clouds like judgment made visible. Sodom erupted in flames. Gomorrah collapsed into ash. The screams lasted only seconds before they were swallowed by the roar of heaven's wrath. Lot ran. His daughters ran. His wife ran. But somewhere along the way, she stopped. Maybe she thought of her home, her life, her possessions. Maybe she couldn't believe it was really happening. She turned. Just one glance. One look back at the burning cities. And she became a pillar of salt. Frozen. Forever. A monument to hesitation in the face of judgment. When the sun rose, Abraham looked toward Sodom from his camp in the hills. All he saw was smoke. Thick, black, rising like the smoke of a furnace. The cities were gone. Erased. The valley of life had become a valley of death. But Lot survived. Because of Abraham's prayers. Because of God's mercy. Not because Lot was perfect. He wasn't. He'd compromised. He'd lingered. He'd hesitated. But God remembered Abraham, and he saved Lot anyway. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah isn't just about fire and brimstone. It's about what happens when a society abandons goodness entirely, when cruelty becomes culture.